Arjun Rao's first appearance on the main stage of Converge SF was accompanied by pulsing violet lights and a bass line that rattled the Moscone Center's ceiling tiles. He'd insisted on that entrance music, a compressed 30-second sample trimmed for maximum dopamine release, because he believed every sensation could be optimized, even anticipation. On the screen behind him, his company logo, Doppler Heart, rotated like a neon halo. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice echoing through lapel mic reverb, "love is a math problem we finally have enough data to solve." The audience, investors, founders, growth hackers, leaned forward, ready to be seduced by a demo that might turn courtship into subscription revenue. Arjun's slide deck unspooled correlations between dating app swipes and micro expressions captured through laptop webcams. The newest version of his algorithm, Perfect Pair V3, claimed 97.4% predictive accuracy for relationship longevity, given a 15-minute questionnaire and a selfie. The cynicism of the claim didn't bother him. He'd long ago replaced notions of destiny with confidence intervals. After thunderous applause, he surrendered the stage to the next speaker and strode toward the lobby, already bored by his own triumph. A dozen badge-wearing attendees intercepted him for photo ops. Someone offered to buy him an oat milk latte in exchange for mutual fund allocation of Series B shares. Arjun politely extracted himself and slipped outside onto 4th Street, craving uncalibrated air. A wisp of music floated above the traffic's drone steel-strung guitar. Slow minor chords, slightly detuned in a way that prickled his spine. He followed the sound until he found a young woman seated cross-legged on an inverted milk crate near a graffiti-layered utility box. She wore a forest green peacoat, hair gathered into a messy bun pinned by a single pencil. No amplifier, no looping pedal, not even a cardboard sign, just an empty fedora on the pavement collecting bills. Arjun crouched beside her, scanning for any digital footprint. No Bluetooth speaker, no tip jar QR code. "You don't take Venmo?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. She plucked a final harmonic and glanced up, eyes the pale blue of a faded Polaroid. "I take Smiles, or cash if you've got it." Electronic gratuities feel like IOUs people forget. He dug for physical currency, a rarity in his life, and found 2 wrinkled singles. She tucked them beneath the hat band and resumed playing, a modal progression that reminded him of a place he'd never been. "I'm Arjun," he said when she paused to retune a string. "I build software that helps people meet." "I'm Maeve," she answered. "I'm the software that helps people hear." He laughed, a short startle of genuine amusement. Most networking at tech conferences was algorithmic small talk. Her line felt refreshingly compiled in a human brain. "No phone at all?" he pressed. She tapped her coat pocket. "I carry a flip phone for emergencies when I tour, but it's usually dead because the charger's lost under sheet music. I like walking through the day without being summoned." Arjun's chest buzzed with the phantom vibration of Slack notifications. The idea of belonging to no network felt impossible, almost mythic. "Come by Golden Gate Park tomorrow," she said, packing her guitar into a scuffed case. Buskers set up near the Conservatory of Flowers around noon. Bring real ears, not AirPods. He nodded before remembering he had back-to-back investor lunches. "I'll try," he said, which usually meant no. Yet something about the way she slung the guitar strap over her shoulder like fastening wings nudged him toward yes. That evening, he reviewed telemetry from the beta cohort. /B charts, retention funnels, user engagement heat maps, all signals confirmed. Perfect Pair V3 was ready to scale, but his mind drifted to Maeve's analog chords. On impulse, he keyed her first name into the user database. No profile existed, obviously, which annoyed him more than it should have. Love may have been a math problem, but variables outside the dataset were irritants. He went to bed, intending to forget her. Instead, he dreamt of a city where Wi-Fi dead zones bloomed like wildflowers, and people stumbled into each other the way wind-blown sheet music finds a new tune. The next morning, Arjun ditched the investor lunch, grabbed a handful of 20s from an ATM, and biked to Golden Gate Park. He located Maeve amid a semicircle of strollers and picnickers. She was now playing a collapsible piano accordion, sighing out a waltz older than electricity. When she spotted him, she finished her set, then bowed exaggeratedly. "You made it! I guessed you'd be too busy optimizing lunch." "I rescheduled," he said, out of breath from both the bike ride and the unexpected happiness blooming behind his ribs. "Your music is human latency," she finished. "Takes longer, but feels better." They spent the afternoon trading sentences. Her life story unfolded in film grain fragments, raised in Santa Cruz by parents who ran a vinyl only record shop, self taught on guitar, accordion, and anything with strings, tours up and down the West Coast in a refurbished school bus with no GPS. She avoided screens because they flattened time, something music was supposed to widen. He'd told her the sanitized version of his background. Stanford computer science, 2 failed startups, then Doppler heart. She teased that an engineer mining romance for data was like a chef analyzing hunger statistics rather than tasting food. He bristled, though her grin softened the jab. Sunset pinkened the conservatory's glass panels. Maeve packed up and asked if he wanted to help her haul gear to a Dolores Park open mic that evening. "I don't know anything about live shows," he said. "Perfect," she replied. "Help me lift." The bar at Dolores Park was the opposite of the Moscone Center. Sticky floor, analog mixing board missing half its knobs, chalkboard drink menu where the bartender crossed out items as supplies dwindled. Maeve played a short set. Arjun watched from a rickety stool, listening as the crowd leaned closer with each verse. Her final song, a smoky cover of a 1930s torch ballad, threaded straight into parts of him no machine learning model had permission to map. When she finished, patrons cheered so loudly that Arjun's smartwatch interpreted the noise as jet takeoff and asked if he wanted to record a workout. He silenced it and slipped it into his pocket. Over tepid beer, Maeve asked, "So, Mr. Algorithm, how does my match score compare to everyone else's? You're not in the system, remember? If I filled out your questionnaire, what would it predict?" He grinned, half teasing, half testing. "Want to try? I've got a dev build on my phone." "Only if you answer too." They migrated to an empty booth. Arjun opened the app, ignoring the irony that Maeve was about to use a device she ordinarily disdained. The questionnaire probed personality traits, conflict styles, life goals. Maeve's answers came in witty riffs, while Arjun toggled his own defaults with the efficiency of someone who'd filled the form 100 times. Processing. The app flashed, while a loading spiral corkscrewed. Arjun had coded that animation himself. He liked to imagine users' hearts quickening in sync with its acceleration. When the results page materialized, a photo of a 36-year-old endodontist from Palo Alto appeared next to Maeve's thumbnail. Compatibility, 96.8%. He felt heat flare behind his ears. The numbers were correct, calibrated by millions of data points, but they described a reality that now seemed counterfeit. Maeve laughed so hard she snorted. "I'm destined for a root canal king named Darren." "Statistically," Arjun managed. She flicked the phone face down. "Your statistics need new sheet music." He told himself her reaction confirmed Perfect Pair's validity. She and he were fundamentally dissimilar. The algorithm had saved them from future heartbreak. But as they parted outside, her jacket brushing his sleeve released a static crackle that hummed in his veins all the way home. 3 weeks passed like a double exposure days of sprint planning and investor pitches, overlaid with nights of concerts in basements, rooftops, and BART tunnels. Maeve showed Arjun how to listen for resonant frequencies under Market Street grates. He explained Fourier transforms until she playfully told him to shut up and feel the vibrations instead of labeling them. Each morning he woke beside her, acoustic guitar, leaning against his IKEA bed frame, and for the first time in years he checked something other than notifications upon opening his eyes. Yet the mismatch score clanged in his subconscious like a drop cymbal. Doppler Hart's Series B funding hinged on a high visibility rollout featuring real couples whose happiness the algorithm had predicted. Investors wanted photogenic success stories for the press. Arjun's COO, Helena, cornered him one afternoon. We need a charismatic pair by the Eve launch. Diversity, relatability, the works. Any leads? His mouth formed Maeve's name before his brain considered consequences. Possibly, he said. Let me run final analytics. That night, Maeve invited him to her bus, a cobalt blue relic parked near the Pier 70 shipyards, to rehearse a new song cycle. Inside smelled of cedar and espresso grounds. A barrel stove crackled while she tuned a mandolin. Between chords, she asked about his day. He hesitated, then told her about Helena's demand. Cool, Maeve said. If your magic math wants to parade us in front of cameras, fine, but only if it's honest. Honest, he echoed, heartbeat jittering. He returned to the office after midnight, eyes gritty, emotions knotted. He could tell Helena the algorithm hadn't matched them, but then investors would see his own life contradicting his product. Terrible optics. Worse, he didn't want to believe the match score. In the luminous hum of the open floor plan, he reopened the dataset. He convinced himself the questionnaire undervalued artistic variables, so he added weightings for creativity, improvisation, tolerance, analog affinity. Each tweak bumped their compatibility upward, 21 to 43, then 50, 7, 71. He kept coding while city lights flicked off one by one, chasing a number that could sanctify his feelings. At dawn, the score hit 92.3%. He leaned back, triumphant and nauseous. The press junket was scheduled for the following Friday in a Selma loft, dressed like a sitcom living room. Maeve arrived wearing a vintage red dress that matched the Doppler Hart accent color, though Arjun suspected coincidence. Cameras clicked as they sat on a velvet love seat, fingers intertwined. Helena narrated how the couple met through Perfect Pairs beta, glossing over chronology. Arjun tried to focus on Maeve's warmth beside him, but the awareness of his doctored code soaked through like ice water. During a Q&A, a tech journalist asked Maeve whether she'd felt an instant spark when seeing Arjun's profile. She smiled with candor that froze his spine. We actually met on the street. The app told me to date a dentist. Laughter rippled through the room. Arjun attempted a joke to deflect, but another reporter seized the thread. So the algorithm missed originally? Only because it hadn't learned enough about music yet, Arjun said, voice steady over the raging churn in his chest. Maeve looked at him searchingly, then suspiciously. The interview ended, applause cued by a producer, but tension remained coiled like feedback between speakers. Outside, on the sidewalk, Maeve said quietly, "Did you change something to make us fit?" He could have lied again. Instead, the confession landed heavy. I adjusted a few parameters to reflect reality. Reality? Her laugh was brittle. You retrofitted your code to earn PR points. That's not reality. That's forging destiny. Arjun reached for her hand. She stepped back. I need air, she said, and walked away, guitar case banging her calf like a reprimand. That night, the Moscone Center prepared for Converge SF's closing keynote, which Arjun was scheduled to deliver, the end of randomness. He stood backstage staring at his script, the words bleeding meaning. Without Maeve's presence in his life, the argument that love could be distilled into vectors felt paper thin. 5 minutes before showtime, he left the cue cards on a folding chair and slipped out a side exit. He wandered toward Market Street, drawn by instinct rather than maps. Half an hour later, he found Maeve outside a late-night diner, sipping black coffee from a ceramic mug streaked with lipstick. Her accordion was beside her on the curb, bellows half open like a broken lung. Is this where the app predicted I'd be? She asked without looking up. No, he said, easing down beside her. The app's off, battery dead. A street lamp hummed. Traffic lights cycled. Neither spoke for a long slice of urban hush. I built Perfect Pair because I thought if I understood love, I could avoid being hurt. His voice barely cleared the boulevard's murmur. But you made me realize the parts I can't model are the parts that matter. Maeve traced the rim of her mug. You don't get to reboot us like software. I know, he swallowed. So I came to tell you the truth. The algorithm never matched us. I falsified the data. Investors will bail, probably. I might lose everything. But if there's any chance you'll play me another song, that's the probability I want to chase. She studied him so intently he feared she could see every misringed variable. Then she lifted the accordion, adjusted the straps, and began a slow, mournful melody that opened into hopeful major chords. People on the sidewalk paused, spellbound. Arjun closed his eyes, letting the music rearrange the architecture of his chest. When she finished, Maeve asked, "Did your heart keep time with that?" "Yes," he whispered. "That's your new algorithm. Guard it." The next morning, Arjun stood before Doppler Hart's board and resigned as CEO. He offered the code base, patents, and brand, but insisted the predictive claims be tempered. No more marketing love as guarantee. Helena stared in stony silence. Investors muttered. Arjun felt lighter than he had since college, like he'd stepped out of a climate-controlled room into unpredictable weather. He and Maeve began to meet halfway between their worlds. She showed him how to repair cassette tapes with a pencil. He taught her to record tracks on an open-source digital workstation, no data mining attached. Sometimes they spent entire afternoons in silence, her strumming, him sketching unwritten code that served no venture capital purpose. They fought about things that mattered: tempo changes, trust, whose turn it was to buy groceries, and each argument ended in some messy harmony neither could have predicted. On a crisp November night, they hopped a cable car at Powell Street. Arjun's phone chimed with push notifications from recruiters. He powered it down. Maeve, balancing her guitar against the wooden bench, asked, "What's the statistical chance this thing still runs without the cable snapping?" "High enough," he said, slipping an arm around her. "But uncertain. Best part, right?" The car lurched forward, bells clanging. City lights blurred into luminous bokeh, like pixels unmoored from grids. As the wind combed through their hair, Arjun realized the universe still had millions of data points he'd never harvest, and that ignorance felt less like failure and more like faith. Maeve leaned into him and began humming a tune he didn't recognize. No latency, no buffering, just air vibrating, notes spilling into night. Somewhere behind them, algorithms waited, in servers parsed by fans. But up here, the only metric was the warmth of two bodies sharing an open sky. The cable car crested a hill, paused as if uncertain, then rolled downward, carrying them toward streets unplotted by any app, into the sweet disorder where destiny and data overlap but never fully converge.